And welcome back, everybody, once again to the PCS Summer Split. We have got one more game to go, but ooh, did we save the best for last. Right now, it's an old rivalry of our squads here in the PCS. PSG Talent taking on Type A J Team. But before we get into that, I do want to thank one last time, CTBC Bank for being our sponsor yet again, always by our side. Now, Nightstar, it does not get more storied than these two organizations as far as the PCS era is concerned. PSG Talon, the reigning champions, collecting them like Pokemon cards. And they're playing up against Type A J Team, a squad that has always been so close so many times. And we'll have to see if the undefeated team can stay just that, or if PSG will take them off their perch.
Yeah, and of course, J Team have also been the team that have stood on the world stage. So this is definitely not an organization that doesn't covet that trophy. They've been there, done that. They've hit those highs. It's just a matter of being able to wrestle control of the league back from PSG. And PSG, you know, they're looking real strong to close out yet another year.
You know, there's always time for things to change, but I have loved what PSG have done with their roster in the offseason. We questioned bringing in, two more Korean players that maybe hadn't proven themselves as well. Well, Burry has certainly shown up as a solid player in the start of this split, doing what he needs to as you called it, a caretaker for the team. But Gory has been an absolute standout and an immediate upgrade to Bay. So this team has certainly found more strength than they did have in the spring split. Now, they're not undefeated. They lost to Beyond Gaming early on, but here's the catch. They're only one game behind the undefeated J Team, and if they get the win, well, on tiebreakers, that puts them into first place.
Yeah, if they're able to get this win, they would be in a tie for first place. Otherwise, they would be in a three-way tie for second place, and J Team would get a two-game cushion, which for J Team, if you're putting yourself in position to take the title, being first seed with the two-game cushion is definitely a way to start it.
Now, for J Team, they have had a slight rotation in their roster. Typically, it has been a between Driver and Rock on their squad, but everybody else has been pretty consistent. Konge in the jungle, Uniboy in the mid, Lilvi and Enzo rounding things out, and Driver has kind of been their more reliable player when it comes to playing against stronger teams, and it does kind of almost look like they're sort of testing out Rock to see if he has a longer term plan with the squad. But for Driver, he's certainly been filling the role quite well, and I think this is going to be such a fun matchup all across the board. Like, not only in the top lane, in the jungle, in the bot, but man, let's talk about that mid matchup, because Uniboy versus Gory is going to be hype. And as we said in the beginning of the day, these two players both have LPL experience, and they never actually faced off against one another until now. This is going to be ridiculous. And of course, we're going to compare their stats, because how could we not?
Absolutely. Uniboy has just been an absolute stud at the start of this split. You can see it in the KDA, but when it comes to carrying the workload for his team, it's been Gory. Look at that DPM. Look at that damage percentage. He has just been off the charts when it comes to playing an integral part of their team fights. Yes, he's had some mishaps when it came to the lane phase, when it came to getting caught out on the sidelines, but when it boils down to those 5v5s, you would much rather have Gory at the moment and carrying you over the line in those team fights.
Yeah, and even the game they lost, the one game PSG lost, it came down to a very, very close fight where Gory just couldn't do enough in time. And maybe you can fault him for, dodging a Jinx rocket and betraying Hanabi, but that is what it is. I think that this scoreline, especially in the damage percentage, even more impressive when you consider that Unified's played 2 Aphelios games and 2 Zeri games. Those are not low damage champions. So PSG definitely putting out a lot of numbers as we get underway into Picks and Bans for the final time in week 2. It's going to be Lucian at the table, followed by the Renata, Corki banned out by J Team.
Corki, Silas, maybe they ban the Azir here. And if that's the case, there's a lot of open picks for that first pick for PSG. It almost harkens back to what we saw earlier in the day right? Where BYG, they just hard banned Impunity. Trying to hard ban Apex out. Wasn't successful in the end. But I think this is a much different dynamic. It's not about, hey, Minji doesn't really have a pool. We need to keep banning out these mid laners so he doesn't get exploited. Uniboy's pool has been relatively strong enough since coming back to the PCS. Zeri does get taken away, which means Viego left available, Kalista left available. Those are the clear top two, and of this week, it's been Seraphine coming into the picture.
First big Tom Kench.
That
okay
is not what I expect.
Well, we've unbenched the Kench to kick things off. This is already a start of surprises, but I do want to talk about something that you said, Nightstar. Uniboy's champion pool has absolutely expanded. Because the thing is, in spring, he was really good on a select few champions, most notably the Zoe, and then he picked up the Ahri as well. But it was kind of a kiddie pool. We didn't really have a lot of depth to it. Now, it's very different.
Okay.
And we'll see what he brings to bear as the Senna is taken away. It will be a Senna Kench, but not on the same side of the rift.
Now, their pairings, Senna Seraphine, Senna Ashe, these are both very good laning champions, or laning duos to play into the Tahm Kench. I feel like PSG, they tried to say, hey, if we have the Tahm Kench, there's no way you're playing the Senna, because we don't believe that you can play any of these other Senna bot lane variations, and J-Team have completely answered that.
What if this is a bait? What if they're just setting up the classic combo with the Jinx, put Unified on a champion that can carry? They watched Onyx earlier, and maybe they're going to do the exact same thing.
Could be. They've locked in the Jinx. I feel like they'll just go ahead locking Gory's Azir, though, right here, if they really wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
It does open up the possibility for Seraphine to go into the mid lane. Seraphine into Azir is really, really free. Azir is like not that problematic if you're playing the Seraphine. Seraphine has more range, more control in these fights, and the Azir does get locked in. And now perhaps you go ahead and lock your mid laner, knowing that you do see the Azir, and maybe J-Team say, hey, we'll play a okay, the Swain is very good. Not necessarily into the Azir, but the fact that you have Senna Seraphine to augment this Swain is really, really hard to deal with if you're the side of PSG. Yes, you have a lot of tank shred with Jinx Azir, but can you get through a Swain that has Senna Seraphine on top of him?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what Uniboy can do with this champion, because that's going to be a whole lot of fun. And once the lane phase ends, I think I'll fetch her off. As we get into ban phase 2, the Orin is taken off the table against Hanabi, who's mostly been playing things like the Gnar. But his Orin was definitely pretty solid during the spring split, and they would fit in with the 5v5 potential this comp is offering already.
I think for PSG, they're looking at top lane bans. You can ban,
there we go.
Throw a ban towards corner if you really wanted to. Of course, Viego still left available. Interesting enough, wasn't focused at all in the first phase. But I think the concern would be like an Aatrox here. I really think, because think about it. You have Aatrox Swain combined with Senna Seraphine. How do you ever kill that combination?
You hope that Unified lives long enough to pump out the rockets. I think that's the game plan. Gangplank banned away as well, so really targeting out some of the more comfortable picks from Hanabi, who, you know, I think has been, if anyone on PSG is said to be struggling, I feel like that's probably him. It feels unfair to say because his team's just on fire, but I think Hanabi is kind of been back on the weak side game this particular split after a spring where he was just popping off and dominating everyone else in the top side. And well, see if Driver's going to make that change here. Gwen does get locked in, so not an Aatrox, but that's a lot of AP in this J-Team composition.
Still a lot of durability too, right? Because of the immunity. So you are able to nullify a decent chunk of damage and wait for the next rotations of heals and shields to come through. And still, so much drain potential with healing a lot from your Rift Maker as the Gwen. So PSG are going to have to look to get something that teams don't really want to do early on, and that is buy Grievous Wounds. Xin does get locked in for PSG.
Ooh,
And
Hanabi.
now it's time for Hanabi to explore some interesting options. Fiora is something we wouldn't really expect Hanabi to play because he's been so much more of the, again, weak side player. He plays one of the facilitators for his squad.
That's
Kale is a great pick, though.
We
Kale
see the
into
Kale.
Gwen has been a very popular counter pick into the Gwen and into the Gnar, and I think it fits relatively well, gives you that late game oomph. If this team is able to get to the late game, you definitely believe that they can shred through these champions with the Jinx Kale combination. And on the flip side, JT, they lock in a last pick Vi. I almost would have thought that they'd go for the VA was still left available, but B, they could have gone for something like the Kiana to throw in a little bit of tempo, also throws in a lot of terrain control, but they opt for the Vi and what it offers, single target lockdown, which is curious because there's a Tom Kench. If you're ulting yourself in onto one target, it's super omega telegraphed.
You can't swallow as often, and I do think they're banking on that. Not to mention, hey, you know what this means, Nightstar? We got a good old arcane 1v1 going on here. It's the Jinx versus Vi in this particular game, and Konge saves us a surprise for the end.
A bit of a sisterly duel here. We'll see how season 2 pans out.
That's true. Oh, we don't know the answer. We don't have the script. I mean,
exactly.
This is going to be interesting. J-Team have thrown down the gauntlet. I'm surprised Viego makes it all the way through at the end, but that's a lot of power on the J-Team side to get through. Curious about Uniboy on this Swain. I love the Senna Seraphine adaptation, denying a bit of the Kench, but I really wonder if this wasn't the PSG talent plan all along. Because, Nightstar, if you had to guess, Unified has had a long career going back to Season 7. What do you think his Jinx win rate is?
75%.
Ooh, you are what if I told you you are actually close, but you are, in fact, slightly lowballing him?
Oh.
Unified in 5 seasons has 22 career Jinx games.
Okay.
He has won 77.3% of the time on this champion. This guy knows how to play hyper carries. It is one of his best champions of all time. Only really eclipsed in significant games by his Aphelios.
Of course.
Absolutely. That's a whole nother story. We don't talk about that. But you know what? We do talk about is PSG talent, is J-Team. This is a classic rivalry here in the PCS, and we will see another chapter get written here today to close out week 2 of the summer split. This is gonna be good as they come to clash. Let's start ourselves off, and there's so much to talk about. This top lane, not the least among it, Hanabi on the Kale for the first time.
We finally get a Kale from one of these winning teams. Right? Because
Kale has
so
a horrible
far,
win rate in the PCS.
I think Kale has been winless. Do a quick check on that here. Kale is indeed 0-4.
Oh boy.
So Kale has not been great, but it's been picked by a lot of our lower ranked teams. So I feel like it's almost kind of par for the course, and the win rate is a little bit deceptive because those teams are looking for wins any way, shape, or form, and banking on level 16 Kale can be a way to do it. However, at the same time, we've seen in LPL, the better teams, when they get their hands onto Kale, they can just end the game really early because the Kale gets online, and then there's just no way back to save the game on the other side because you're dealing with a Kale that's ahead and ready to hit 16 faster than you can even touch 16.
Yeah, we're going to have to keep our eyes on it, and I think J-Team may have made a miscalculation in giving over the top side counter pick despite being on red side themselves. Instead, they opted to save their jungle for last, and That could very well punish them as we are underway here. J-Team undefeated, the only team in the PCS currently to not have a loss. But it is worth noting that it came very close at the hands of Frank Esports.
The interesting thing here for this this game is usually you would say, hey, they only pick one tank. It shouldn't be a big problem for J-Team or for PSG or for J-Team to just itemize full to just outpower them because they've got so much sustain. PSG have plenty of damage, and or J-Team will see, or we'll see if PSG and Kaiwing, given that there is 3 magic damage champions, if he's able to itemize properly. Because we saw in the DCG CFO game, Koala opted for just health stacking, which is not really effective. You want to just get resistances when you're dealing with it, or if you're going for Warmogs, at least give yourself an opportunity to reset. Driver, though, against this the Kale pick, we'll see how well he does in the lane phase, because in this matchup, it's really all about trying to deny Kale as much CS, because it's hard to just kill.
Uh-oh.
But this is surprising.
That's a flash. Oh, he flashes and he doesn't
big
quite
heal.
kill. Takes a tower shot. That
And
actually
they turn.
does change things. Kaiwing looking for the block. Lil V on top.
No damage.
And the cork is popped. Oh, man.
Everyone's
This is so
low.
close. This is so close. Nobody is giving any quarter here. Well before the junglers get involved.
Kaiwing does get a healthy chunk of the heal. But
Tom Kench.
with J-Team, they both have heals. Both the Seta
That's true.
and the Serp. So
That was 3 summoners burned on either side.
Enzo's the best one off of this situation because he has teleport. So if he really wanted to, which he should have just recalled and teleported back. And then he has item advantage, able to fast crash this wave as well. He will go ahead and be able to crash the wave. And Unified, he's going to be walking back. And I don't think it actually stops right in front of the tower. So thankfully, he's not actually going to miss a whole lot.
Yeah, nicely done. And I think Kaiwing helped set that one up too. Keep an eye on the mid lane. I mean, we were going to get ready to just make, this mid lane the featured matchup, right? But then it's like, oh, well, there's kill threat in top, there's kill threat in bot. We don't even know where to look. We need one of those fancy, 3-split graphics. Like they got over in the LCS.
Yeah. I think LCS has it. LCK,
I think the LCK
I think has it as well.
It's a cool view. Gotta admit.
Yeah.
They're always finding some new surprises every season for League of Legends. But another thing we have to talk about is Konge on this Vi, because he has brought out a lot of interesting jungle champions. As you mentioned in Pick Fan, we've already seen the Kiana, but now we get to see a champion that has a great single target lockdown. However, there is denial. There is the Tom Kench. What do you expect Konge to be able to do on this Vi?
Vi is definitely a very curious pick. And it does offer a lot of pick potential in lane, where you just kind of jump in onto the Zir or the Kale early on, or find a gank in that bot lane before Kaiwing hits level 6. That's certainly going to be really nice. It's just the issue is afterwards, right? Where you're trying to ult in a 5v5 and it's just easily denied with the Tom Kench. So all his impact has got to be during this lane phase and snowballing one of these lanes ahead for him. Perhaps setting up an easy dive attempt top side for the Gwen would be an ideal situation.
Okay, we'll have to keep an eye on it, as we are starting to see level 6s dinged by at least the mid laners, top as well, but not quite out of the jungle just yet. Taking a look across the board, too, it's a very close game. Unified does manage to get the CS lead up over Enzo, and it continues to be quiet, not for lack of trying, I have to say. Very, very close game, slim gold advantage to PSG, but J-Team do have that Infernal Dragon that they were able to pick up off of the priority advantage.
So I would say for the side of J-Team, they have scaling. advantage until the late game, the very late game. Because then at that point, Unified, Gory, and Hanabi are just going to shred through everyone. But until then, this is a very oppressive composition from J Team because there's so much sustain, and there's plenty of sustained damage as well, right? You have Swain, you have Gwen, they do plenty of damage, you have Ascendant to deal with. Okay, flash forward, okay.
Kaiwing trying to deny, but unfortunately for him, that's level 6 with the cease and desist. Is that Vi from Arcane?
Yeah, that was definitely some revenge track against the sister right there.
All right, no flash on Unified. Critical, that was punished quite well, and J-Team draw first blood.
And it's in the bot lane before the Tahm Kench hits level 6. Clear outline, clear path of attack.
It's just a lane
they
game.
just pull
this
it
is
on.
Good.
Yeah, exactly what Vi can do at this point in the game, right? She has flash, she has a big gap closer in her Q, and then she ults. It's just a lot of distance covered by that champion.
Nicely done. Trying to deny Unified, and again, buy yourself even more time in this game. As you mentioned, that the scaling works really well for J-Team for the vast majority of the game. So, not to see if they can continue it here, and always keep an eye. We have to keep one eye on every single lane, and I'm running out of eyes, Nightstar.
That's going to help out in this bottom lane considerably. Slows down some of the farm coming in from the Jinx, slows down the Jinx early power, which is, you know, it's the early portion of the mid game is going to be Gory focused. A little bit after that, it's going to be Unified on the Jinx once he gets to, you know, 2 and 3 items. And then after that, at 5 items, that's when you're looking at Kayle. So at each point of the game, there's going to be a PSG carry that's going to be the main focal point over the other 2 damage dealers. But for J-Team,
it's like playing one of those JRPGs that just, you know, the main character cycle through the story, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. J-Team, it's all about this front line, though. And pairing it up with the back.
So getting the Rift Herald does mean if they decide to make a repeat play somewhere on the map, they will be able to set themselves up for a really good transition push. Keep an eye on that Dragon timer. Ocean is going to be coming up in about a minute. PSG are looking to try and set up some plays themselves down on the bottom side here. I think they might have been going for a dive, but nobody was at home.
Yep. Enzo understands it. This is our difference between our top teams, right? But Lil V, oh, wow. Okay.
That's a value
Thought
ward
for
right
sure
there.
he was going to get caught.
They actually catch Gory. Look at the damage, already down to about half HP, and oh, denied. That's what Kaiwing can do at level 6 as Kongye just gets shuffled into oblivion. They will be able to open up hostilities. Meanwhile, Uniboy looking for a target as he finds Gory isolated for the pack. They will be able to turn that around, a 1-for-1 trade in the extended.
And the fight just plays out exactly what both teams want, right? Gory gets eaten up by the Tahm Kench to deny that Vi cooldown, which is exactly what makes this Vi pick not great. But he found the one timing early on, which almost pays off the purpose of this Vi pick. And then right afterwards, PSG, they turn the fight, they get that kill, but it turns on its head once the remaining members come over, namely the heal supports or heal and shield enchanters for Uniboy on the swing.
Yeah, that full denial is just in the middle of the air. Kaiwing follows him up. They take down Kongye, but yeah, I mean, once you're kind of out of steam, it's really good target selection there for Lil V, Uniboy, and Enzo, and they just take out Gory. The gold does fall into the center, so Lil V's grabbing both for the team. I think they would have liked that on Uniboy a little more, but still. Back to the action we go. Driver, 2-level advantage on Hanabi. Excuse me, no, they're both level 9. What am I talking about? And it's an even trade.
Woo. 2-level advantage was
Scissors
nuts.
ties Angel. Yeah, I thought I saw 7, and I'm like, nope, it's just really early.
Yeah. Scissors clipping the wings of the Kayle, but Kale's still doing well, keeping pace in CS, which is the entire purpose of the Kayle. Just outrange it later on, but
Gory dodging out of Empire there, and in the 1v2, actually turning it around. You have to respect the Shurima shuffle into tower.
The big thing is coming in with the ultimate, and then Gory just dashes to his tower, so it carries the Vi into the tower. That's the biggest problem that they would face. So that's why Kongya doesn't just immediately go for that ultimate. However, it lands them a second dragon, which is still great news for the side of the J team.
We got a Hex Tech Rift as well. That is going to be a game changer, Nightstar. J team getting themselves a second dragon and going to take advantage of the momentary push angle they have to send Shelly crashing in to get a few more plates off, and not bad.
Very good
Still
result
hasn't been
there.
to gold advantage, though.
It hasn't. But I think they are also very comfortable with where they are with this draft. So, especially when you start stacking those dragons, it takes away some of the air out of a Kale composition, because it takes away time to get that Kale to level 16. Kongya?
True.
Alright, we'll see if he can find a creative angle. Is spotted
the
on
wraparound,
that
they
control
know.
ward, which means no angle. Unless he wants to brute force us.
He might. At this point, it might be worth it. No, decides not. Who knows who's hiding in the lane? It would have been Burry. Burry's had a pretty quiet game, actually. We haven't really seen that much of him in the lanes.
Yeah, and you know, usually he's on the caretaker role, so that still remains true. At the same time, Burry
I think
does
that
need
rocket
to get
did less damage than Unified with Light. It's not the same as the end of Season 1. Sorry if it's spoilers. You should have seen Arcane by now.
so true, so true.
It's been like 7 months. You've all had
If
time.
you haven't seen it by now, you weren't ever going to see it anyways, right? So spoilers doesn't matter at that point.
Never say never, you know. But still.
I mean, it's
yeah.
like when someone mentions Endgame. Like, if you haven't seen it yet, you weren't going to see it in the near future anyway.
Yep. Hashtag Thanos kills Dumbledore.
You got me.
Sorry, wrong franchise. Anyways, it's like I said, it's so late, it's early over in North America, so things are gonna get a little weird. You're just gonna have to roll with it. But we have a banger of a game. I mean, it's a slow build, but this is a powder keg. J team building up dragon advantages at this point. They are down 1,000 gold.
It's really just going to culminate at the next dragon. Because
Imperial
that would
Mandate
be third
Train, by the
dragon
way.
for PSG. They really want to secure it just to allow more time for the Kale. And for J team, they're just trying to set up a pick. The Vi, you know, had that one all. Had the second all.
They might have another. Okay, Vault Breaker and Unified does manage to get into the relative safety of Kaiwing's belly as they turn, interrupting Kongye for round 2, but he's just so tanky they can't quite get the kill. Here comes the rocket yet again. He's burning, and they can't quite take him down, but Burry actually going to get turned on route from Lil V as they managed to find the damage. There was another fight happening upriver between Gory and Uniboy, and that gets turned away. I can't believe it, but nobody dies.
And that was actually such a key factor up in that river area, that Gory was able to interrupt Uniboy from coming in, because he burns the ultimate coming in from the Swain, which means Swain doesn't have the infinite sustain running into that bottom lane. He isn't able to combine forces with his heal and shielding duo down in that bot side, and now Hanabi actually gets himself this turret, gets to level 11. This is the sweet spot where you can start doing some things with the Kale, and getting that extra gold from the first brick is going to help out even more. 1 minute until Hex Tech Dragon. Can J Team find the pick? This would be extremely helpful for them. They still have the ultimate up on the Vi, whereas Kaiwing doesn't have his.
It's PSG that we're fishing for an opportunity here on the map.
Catfishing.
J Team, yeah, they are going to have to find some answers. I don't think they want to be catfishing, because at this point they're gonna pick the wrong target. You don't want to get Kaiwing on these ones. Hanabi is a big target. Gory's a big target. Unified's a big target. And as you mentioned with Hanabi, starting to hit pretty fast with that Wit's End. Easy peasy
For
tower take.
Hanabi, gets that first item. Going to be able to nullify a decent chunk of the damage coming in from J Team. Kongya not exploiting the opening he had with the Salt and Battery differential cooldown with the Tom Kench Devour. And now Kaiwing has that ultimate back up.
Kaiwing able to deny as much as possible on his own timer. They will spot Kongye out in River. I don't think they saw Enzo, but they have to know he's probably around as well. Nothing to take here just yet. 5 seconds, though, is all it's going to be until the Hextech Dragon is on the map, and PSG don't want to give this one away. Teleport coming in for the Gwen, but they've already brought Hanabi to this party, and we're going to get ourselves a proper team fight.
This is Hex Dragon, so it is going to do a little bit of damage with the electricity. That's going to be also annoying to deal with, so you have to be decisive.
Kongye tanking. Dragon turns his attention, starts to reset back into the pit. Not fully. PSG unwilling to commit, but they will be able to find the final to Uni Boy looking for that one. He goes into stasis for just a second as they do send out the big ult from Enzo. Will it be enough to make this happen?
Stay going!
On Bury is isolated, Unified managed to get some kills, and it's a double for Bury before he falls. But now the Dragon does go down. It's absolute carnage as J-Team collapse. And a big set of double kills for Hanabi and Unified.
Oh, they get the kills, but the play was all set up by Gory hitting yet another fantastic Azir ultimate. This man on Azir and these team fight carries is just...
He's good.
Unbelievable. And this is why we also wanted to see Kale come into the draft for our better teams, because you hit that a level 11 fight where you can actually play the game, and the impact is tremendous. We're going to see the replay.
Because definitely Gory had a massive impact when he came up to pretty much looking like a flame flip on the fight, but immediately they turn on Rudy Boy,
and
for a
Gory,
second, it looks good for
right here.
But
this is where the fight turns. Boom!
Boom! Flash,
the flash,
shuffle,
3-man.
Everything changes when the Gory Nation attacks.
Gory comes in, hits the 3-man, and it's just game over. Even better is the fact that Bury's able to get the smite onto the Dragon, which stops the stacking. That's going to give them all the time in the world to figure out how they want to play the rest of the game.
Never mind Kale and Jinx. I think Azir just became the main character.
This is his time frame, though, right? Where he's on 1 and 2 items. That's his big power spike. Once you get to 3 items, that's where Jinx starts to take over. Once you get to 4 or 5, of course, that's when Hanabi is about level 16. So, you know, that's definitely where he takes over. So, again, each of these PSG carries are going to be rotating their time in the limelight.
And you were talking about the 3-item Jinx too, as well as earlier on the Grievous Wounds probably being a factor. Well, the Mortal Reminder does get built by Unified. He's never been a man to shy away from building whatever works best for the team. And it's level 11, so we'll have access to that better ultimate.
The Mortal Reminder, while it may not be the most stat-efficient item, I think in that fight where really the entire game pivots off of it, makes a lot of sense that he went ahead and completed it. Just to get as much power as he could into that one fight. It does mean that, you know, his next item spike isn't going to feel as good, but coming in on the flank, still a tower there, so this will be a very difficult play to actually execute. But JT,
it's going to be hard to gank Hanabi at this point. He's a Kale.
Do you feel like, man, we just need to find a way to force a team fight, and because they don't have that soul pressure, it is going to be a tough ask.
Yeah, that's very true. So Hanabi's able to keep the side lane cleared away. Something PSG have always done pretty well is making sure that they have themselves covered on the map. I think one of the big talking points for the Spring Split was that they were the best team in the PCS at just understanding map control, and that carried them a lot of the way to victory. I think other teams, other squads, they have leveled up, so that advantage is not quite so unique anymore. That being said, PSG still very, very good at it. Enzo's going to be forced to stop his back in the middle of the lane. 21 minutes on the clock. It is a gold advantage. Pretty decent for PSG, and they have cut into the Drake stack. So J-Team, while they still have time, they still will be able to take 5v5s. That window is less open than it used to be. It's starting to slow a little, and they really need to get more value out of this Kongye pick.
This was the last pick Vi taken when there was a Tom Kench. It was first pick Tom Kench, remember? So it's not like they were being really sneaky about it. And while they were able to exploit the level 5 from Tom Kench, haven't been able to do anything afterwards. So Vi is in a very tough position. That being said, we do have the Rylays completed by the Swain, so his team fight power coming back a little bit in that regard. If he's able to get onto the back line, he's going to be able to just constantly stick onto him, and perhaps that will force Gory to use a defensive Azir ult, which would allow them to play the rest of the fight relatively straightforward afterwards for JT.
That's true. Driver also has Nashor's Tooth complete too, so it's not like JT are hurting for stats. Unfortunately, what they don't have at the moment is priority over the Dragon Pit, in less than 10 seconds before another Hextech spawns. PSG looking in a much better position to take this, and I think J-Team need to focus the fight. They need to find Unified or find Gory, but there's a lot of denial that can come through, and they need to be able to set up for a play. It's a good Flame Chompers into the choke. Here comes Driver on the front side. They don't even wait for the Dragon to be procced. Before they go for it, as Driver goes in, Driver goes out. Uniboy looking for more here, but he's going to get taken oh so low. Has the sustain to follow through. Bury also able to stop, and that is going to be the shuffle denied. They've had the opportunity here to turn the fight. They've separated Gory from the pack as Driver takes him down. Kongye looking to lock up the fight, but does not get it. 2 kills for 1. J-Team will be able to take Dragon away. No smite either side.
That's going to be a big win, but can they secure? They are going to bring in teleport from Driver. It's just going to be...
Yeah. Time's not long enough for that one.
Yeah, sometimes that is how it is. But big win coming in for J-Team, being able to snag that one up. And we'll see the replay. And it starts out, you know, it's pretty solid given the fact that they are able to burst down Uniboy to the point that he has to back out of the fight. He's able to constantly push forward. And the flash from Driver really shifts this fight because the Gory now out of position. The Seraphine ult just hits across 4. And that's just, that feels like it's game over. So,
well done from JT. Goes in like fully expecting to die and knows that he just needs to lock somebody up for a couple of seconds. It's unfortunate that that's kind of his job right now, but he did it very well. And J-Team get the better trade. They get the Dragon, and now they're on Soul Point. So this is the threat that PSG will be under. Despite the gold lead, despite the tempo advantage that they've been able to flex a little bit, J-Team have been able to tangle with them, looking to protect that perfect record they've got so far here in the summer split. And there's still some fight in this squad. PSG are going to need to get to the late game.
You know, Hanabi about to be level 60.
Oh boy,
this is a scary moment.
This is a Hanabi revenge game. We were talking him down, saying he was the exploitable weak link, and he's like, "Oh yeah, how about this? I want to be the first one to win with Kale."
And out on
Look at
3
that farm,
items.
man. He just like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. He just attacks
over
for
10
just so fast.
Yeah, over 10. That's usually the mark, and he's over that mark, so he is extremely ahead of the curve. Has completed 3 items, has a bunch of attack speed, has also the shield coming in from the shield bow, keep him even more healthy. So a lot of safety in the build.
If he needs it.
And you also have Kale out. You also have Tom Kenchal. Like, you're at that point where even if the Tom Kenchal does get used before the Vi ult comes in, and Vi all of a sudden thinks that, hey, there's an opening. Well, no, because Kale ult is also a thing, and you just
it's one of these compositions that, like, I think you used to see stuff like this back before the Tom Kentry work, and it was just like, this is an anti-assassin build. You can't kill anyone because we will just deny them over and over again. It starts to feel a little bit more like that, even with the Tom Kench changes, whereas Devour's
This is the safest Kale build in the history of Kale builds. Look,
oh my goodness, QSS. Wow, all right. He just really never wants to be locked down. I respect it.
Yeah,
he's so far ahead too, though. I mean, yeah, why not, right? Like you're literally a full item ahead of the Gwen. Go for it. I
would have expected something like the Hex Drinker here, given how much magic damage is coming through. Also gives you a little bit of sustain, but certainly the QSS is also good against something like the lockdown coming in from the Senna, if it ever lands onto you, or just the ult encore from Enzo.
true. There's a lot of things you can deny, a lot of CC that J-Team are going to try and throw out your way. For PSG, it's been all about keeping the vision clear on this side of the Baron pit. Remember, the Dragon is still going to be a very real possibility, but not for another minute and a half. And that does mean that if PSG can set up a pick or set up a blind angle, maybe they can try to rush this down. It's a pretty fast Baron take for the team. They got a lot of attack speed between their carries.
Definitely plenty of damage on the side of PSG. They do that objective in a jiffy. And right now, it feels like J-Team have missed their window of opportunity. As even though Uni Boy is still relatively strong, is missing level 16.
Goodness.
That's a key thing.
This is so fast right now. I don't think
Speedy.
they're going to get there in time for the steal. Kaiwing may die. Nope, he gets out.
Not even close.
Scot-free. Now they're going to have to race it for the Dragon. PSG still has to contend on this. They do have empowered recalls to try and get back into the fight, and J-Team realize they have a very small window of opportunity to try and force the issue, secure the soul. It's still 30 seconds away, though, so unfortunately they can't grab it.
This is so hard. They need a pick, but with Baron, you can just get mid lane priority.
Oh no, the flank.
Oh,
Rory's here. He's like collapse on, and he goes in.
Okay, that's flash.
Doesn't get punished, forces a flash at a little V. That's value right there. Dragon's up in 5 seconds. Calling you over the wall.
Fight lines reset.
Driver isolated. This is good, PSG. They muscle in.
Still a lot of sustain. They're still all full health.
All right, they're facing each other down. We got a good old standoff here at the Dragon Pit. This one's for Soul. PSG cannot back down.
This is pretty much for the game. Will V takes some poke, and Hanabi just says, okay.
Watch the Hanabi wraparound. Driver goes in,
wrap.
trying to get for the opportunity here. They got Bury buying some time for the team as Uniboy looks for the kill, but Kaiwing swallows up his carry. Hanabi finding Driver on the other side. They do take down the Swain. Uniboy out of the fight does mean it's a big numbers advantage, and they just pick J-Team apart. This is gonna be it. PSG will take down J-Team for the win and tie themselves up for first place. Nice, cool, calm, and collected.
30 minutes. The death timers are going to be pretty long. And
I think they've got this, Nightstar.
Yeah, I think so too. You've got 3 high damage carries auto attacking that tower. It's not gonna last for long. And we'll see the replay on the fight afterwards. But PSG put themselves back on top, baby.
Yeah, I think after the Beyond Gaming loss, we were wondering, all right, is this team exploitable? Is this team quite as strong? How was Bury and Gory going to slot into the squad at the beginning of the split? We had these questions. Well, they've been answered. And the answer is very, very well indeed. So J-Team take a loss, get knocked down to share first place with PSG, who have the tiebreaker head-to-head over them. And a lot of conversation happening. And let's take a look at that final fight one more time.
Yeah, and the key point was the fact that they were able to split Uniboy away from his enchanter. And once that avenue, that lifeline, basically IV gets cut off, then he's not drain tanking a whole lot. So he's out in no man's land. Does get a shield at the very end, but he's just way too far away from his Seraphine Senna. And this composition is all predicated on the Seraphine, Senna, and Swain combination. So after that connection gets broken, there's no legs to stand on.
PSG just understood the win conditions so well this game, and they built themselves one hell of a comp. Protection for all of the carries. People scaled at different points of the game, and they knew what J-Team were going to do, and they denied them. I think J-Team had chances. I think they took a couple of them, and it worked out really well in the early game, but they needed so much more. They needed to be able to secure that soul. Losing the one dragon did cut down on that, and it kind of just goes to show why PSG, they're not just the defending champions, they are, until further notice, the team to beat in the PCS.
And everyone's going to be incredibly critical about this Vi pick, right? This was a last pick Vi. You saved the entire draft for your counter pick jungler. This is what you come up with? A pick that's already countered by Kale Alt and Tom Kench. It was really, really a disappointing finish, and we saw that bit disappointing play as well, right? You get the first great ultimate because you beat the level timing. Fantastic. Afterwards, just absolutely fizzled out. I would have loved to see the Kiana come back in this particular game because it's all about the terrain control. The Viego was left
you could have taken over. You could have taken over so many priority champions. It would have been massive.
It would have fit the drain tank idea, or with the rest of the composition, right? You go in, you heal with your Q along with your Divine Sunder, and you just kind of keep on drain tanking through everything, get resets, get more health back. Conceptually, it was like, that was the slam dunk. And then we got Vi.
Yeah, I mean, again, I appreciate the thematic stuff, but at the same time, I feel like we expect more to be given over to the side of Kongye. If you're going to give up a very high priority counter pick in the top side, especially when you're facing up against Hanabi, who I think you could have seen as somebody maybe before this game that was exploitable. I don't know now that we just flexed on the Kale, but I feel like J-Team dropped the ball a little bit. I mean, maybe this was just an instance of outdrafting themselves. Either way, they tried to keep it pretty close, but the game started to get away from them just a little bit before 20 minutes on the clock, and, well, PSG, they never looked back.
Yeah, you could see there were things that went into J-Team's favor with, the Senna, Swain, Seraphine combination. Did find some value when they could stay connected, stay tethered to each other. But the issue was, Gory is just too good. I'm pretty sure it's a 100% Gory MVP rate.
I think you might be right about that one. Now, let's see if it holds true. I don't think there's any reason to doubt that it would be, because Gory definitely was putting out the majority of the team's damage. I think Hanabi had some hero plays. Burry did exactly what he needed. And, of course, Kaiwing was protecting the Jinx. But, yeah, the later this game went, it was going to get even better and better for PSG. And they didn't really end up needing anything more than that sub 30-minute fight, because that's just the way it goes sometimes in this particular meta of League of Legends.
Oh, it's actually Hanabi. All right.
Yeah. All right. You know what?
You know what?
Give it to him. He did a quarter of the team's damage. He
hit
played
level
a Kale
60.
game. This was the best game we've seen from Hanabi that played.
Oh yeah.
Say that.
Put in a little bit of a newer role, right? He doesn't get as much resources invested. He's not expected to carry the heavy load of the damage, so less of a focal point on the squad. With Gory now on the roster, but comes in with the Kale, gets our first Kale win. I did look back through the MVPs. Burry did get the one yesterday, so it's not 100% Gory rate. But this man has still the most critical place in the game too. So, like in that game, if it wasn't for that ultimate, they don't get the third dragon. That changes the calculus quite a bit. They don't get those kills as well. They don't win the fight. A lot of things could have gone wrong right afterwards.
Yeah, we did compare both Uniboy and Gory in our head-to-head, and it really was Gory that just does so much more for his team. I think Uniboy has probably the highest pop-off potential, at the very least from what we saw last split. But, man, Gory just does so much work. Heavy lifting for the team. We saw it time and again. And let's take a look back at today's games, because we had some big ones and some surprises, especially Impunity Esports knocking off Mega Bank Beyond Gaming, bringing it all together and showing why we consider them a dark horse in the playoff race. Now, Deep Cross Gaming beating Frank Esports on paper seems like it maybe is a no-brainer, but the way Frank have been playing, the way they kept it close, that's another story. And then, of course, PSG managing to get themselves the win to tie first place with the tiebreaker on a 3-game winning streak. What a result for them, as CFO and Deep Cross Gaming joining the J-Team universe up in the top of the standings with Mega Man Beyond Gaming at 4-2, even though they dropped those two this week. Frankie Sports hot on their heels, though, as well as Impunity and Meta Falcon Team finding one more win. Still in the hunt for a first, though. Dewish Team and Sem 9 as we close out week 2.
Yeah, a lot to digest from just this week number 2. We saw plenty of upsets, plenty of surprises, and this is what we hoped for coming into this split with the revamp of Frank Esports, of Impunity, and hopefully some growth coming in from Mega Bank Beyond Gaming. And so far, all 3 teams have really notched that. So this is the most competitive PCS split across the board, whereas sometimes we've had more competitive top end of the table. This is all around a very, very strong showing, and it makes for very explosive playoffs when we get to that point.
Yeah, it's only the end of week 2, but I am already salivating at the thought. It's going to be great. But we do have to take a look at our matches upcoming. This is going to be for week number 3 when we come back after our little bit of a break. It's obviously just, the regular week. We're not going away. We're coming back next week. Don't worry. Same time, same place. We'll start with Frankie Sports versus Dewish Team. Sem9 will look for a win against Deep Cross, who have resurged. And then Impunity versus J-Team. I feel like that's got potential for a banger as well right in the middle of the day. I mean, Impunity. They got the win. They have some opportunities here. I want to see how far this team can go, because this is the best they've ever looked.
Yeah, Impunity taking on J-Team will be interesting. Definitely J-Team's a massive favorite, but after Impunity's performance, maybe you have a little bit of kindling going on. Perhaps that gets the flame going. And of course, CFO taking on BYG. That will also be a very telling game because of how both of those teams performed this week in particular. Maybe we see Shun, or does CFO go back to Atlan? That is another question as well.
Well, we're going to have to wait just a few days to find those answers, but we'll be back. So until then, be good to each other. Take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time.